On today's Brew Talk, the top 10 things not to do when brewing. Today's Brew Talk was inspired by viewer comments. Although today I should say comment because it's one person, and I'm probably going to say their name wrong, but it's Bo Sterndahl, as best I can. Their comment was, most people make what to-do lists, but you awesome guys are not like most people. Please do a what not to do list, please. So we made a what not to do list. Now, just so you know, this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, okay? But, you know, most of them are actually good advice.
Number 10!
Ignore sanitation. Do not ignore sanitation. It is very, very important. It's more important as you get to lower ABV stuff like beer, and when you get to higher ABV stuff, it's less important, but it's still important. That doesn't even make any sense to me. But it's
basically,
just, you don't
in
have
brewing,
to go nuts.
There's good bugs and there's bad bugs.
Yeah.
And so we sanitize to get rid of the bad bugs so that the good bugs can do their job.
That is probably the most easy to understand definition of sanitization for brewing that I've ever heard. And whether you say it's sanitation or sanitization, you're right both times. Something of note, though, you want to make sure you're clean, but we get people sometimes they're just making jokes, sometimes they're being serious. Were your hands sanitized? Did you sanitize the table that you're working on? Were the towels sanitized? Okay, to a point, you cannot sanitize everything. But when there's dripping sanitizer water all over our hands, all over the table, all over the cloth that we're using to dry things on, yeah, everything's sanitized well enough. You basically don't want to spit in a jar and then try brewing in it. I mean, it just doesn't, you want to be a little more careful than that.
Don't pull one of those old Western scenes.
Yeah, when they spit in the glass
and rub it out with a dirty rag.
It's not sanitary, okay? Contrary to popular belief.
Number 9!
When starting out, not using known recipes. Please, when you are first starting out with brewing, use a known recipe. And I don't mean watch a video and then go, oh, I can just sub out that for 3 pounds instead of 2 pounds and put this in instead of that, and then add 15 other things and use a whole different yeast. That's not using a known recipe.
Every
follow
part
it.
of the recipe, the amounts of each ingredient, the types of each ingredient are in alignment with each other to create something that'll work for you.
Yeah. Everything is there for a reason. We actually think out our recipes. They're done on purpose that way so that if we want it to be sweet, we can plan on that. If we want it to be drier, we can plan on that. If we want to build it over time, we can plan on that too. I've seen several people very recently sending me emails, which please don't email us. We never see them. It just takes forever to get to. And
comment on the videos.
Just comment on the videos. So much easier. Because I check those all the time. But anyway, a lot of people asking things like, I put 5 pounds of honey in a 1 gallon batch. That one shocked me because I was like, what? That's not all. They put fruit puree in too. And they're wondering what happened. I'm like,
if you watched our video on sugars, we explained that there is such a thing as too much sugars. Sugars includes the sugars in fruit, the sugars in honey, the sugars in sugar, the sugars in everything else that has sugar. Those together, which, yes, yeast needs to make alcohol. If it's oversaturated, yeasts can't do their job.
Ever hear of too much of a good thing? It's still too much.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, just use known recipes. Whether it's ours or one that you saw in another video or that you got out of a book or something, use known recipes. From trusted sources, too. I mean, there's a lot of people making videos. There's a lot of people writing books. There's a lot of people doing blogs. They're not all necessarily reputable.
A caveat on that, particularly on this channel, if you watch some of our brew videos, you'll notice there's multiple stages.
That's number 2.
Watch all of them, because when you get to the end, you might find notes that we give you on what we would do different that you might want to implement right from the beginning.
That was better than what I thought you were going with. Yes. Good. Anyway.
Oh, number 8!
When starting out, following too many pieces of advice. Okay, what I mean by that is, if you read this book, and they have a different method of doing things than us, and then you follow that website and that blog, and everybody has their own ethos or methodology for things, if you try putting all of that together, It's not going to work for you. Something's going to go very, very wrong. We see this one all the time where people, oh, I got inspiration from your channel and from this other channel and from this other channel. And I hear the channel names and I go, oh boy, because I just know where they're going with it. And our ideas don't meld. That doesn't make them right and us wrong, or us right and them wrong. Just the methodologies don't jive. Okay, like if you go to a website that talks about using extra additives and stabilizers and things like that, and you try to take that with our method, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because we don't stop fermentations that way, but they did. So it changes everything about that brew.
Yeah.
But that kind of goes back to number 9, using known recipes and methods. Okay.
Number 7.
Not using the right equipment. I don't mean you have to go out and buy a ton of equipment. A couple of fermenters, a couple of airlocks, a couple of bungs, an auto siphon, and a hydrometer might set you back $50, $60. But you will have those things for years. Except the hydrometer. Get 3 of those because you're going to break one, you're going to lose one, and then you need one when you want to make a brew. But that's the gist. We have very minimal equipment, really. We have a bunch of fermenters, but we have like 2 auto siphons, maybe 15 or so airlocks, maybe even more at this point. A bunch of different tops for different jars. That's about it. A couple of hydrometers now. We don't have a lot on purpose because you don't need it. You don't need to spend a fortune. Every time you invest in a new piece of equipment, you're putting out money that you could spend on better honey or better ingredients. You will get far more with better ingredients than with better equipment. Like there's all these crazy kinds of fermenters today, the conicals and stuff like that. People are always asking us, oh, can you do a review on that? I'd rather not, because now I have to go buy that thing that I don't have space to keep. So that's why we don't do it.
But if you get into this hobby and you really enjoy all the aspects of it and you want to get all that super fun tech, because
more power to you.
we understand the joy of tech, then go for it. But
yeah, we actually intentionally keep things on a more simplified basis because we actually enjoy brewing that way. It's a choice. It's not, oh, well, we don't know any better. No, we do know.
Yeah.
We just choose to keep it simple. Also, for our videos and for a lot of our new brewers, it's so much more approachable because I see groups and forums where mead making is like this elitism thing that no one can do unless you have 20 years of experience. And it's not, well, you got to get the experience somehow. So that's what we teach you, how to get the experience without spending out a lot of money.
Number 6.
Ignoring measurements of ingredients, gravity, etc. What I mean is, do not ignore measuring. I get people all the time that say, oh, well, they didn't have hydrometers 5,000 years ago. No, they didn't. But if they did, they'd have used it. There's things like that. Measuring your ingredients for repeatability and consistency. I've seen people that someone actually said, I put in just the right amount of honey. I never measure it. Then how do you know? Because there's almost no way to actually know that.
We went into further detail about the importance of measurements in another video.
That's right.
And we even talked about how, in reference to ye olden days, that they still used measurements. It was all a ratio amount. So they knew this much in their hand of this ingredient, plus this much in both hands of another ingredient.
It was relative to them,
equals
rather than a
something
universal.
Good. So they were still measuring. They just weren't fixed amounts. But it was fixed amounts to their own aspect ratio.
And measuring gravity. I measure gravity all the time. And there's reasons why I do that. Most of them are safety related. I honestly don't care if I make a 12%, 13%, 15%, 17%. It's all relative to the yeast I'm using. And that's about it, really. I don't really worry about how much alcohol. Ideally, though, for meads, wines, and some high ABV ciders, 12 to 15%. I say it all the time. Those, your sweet spot. That's where the ethyl alcohol mixed with whatever other flavorants you have is going to taste best. My opinion, our opinion, we share that opinion, but other people say it too. And I say this all the time. It's hard to make a 20% or an 18% brew. It's harder to do using natural methods. I admit that. I knew that. I've always known that. It's easy to make a 12%. And you know what? If you drink 2 glasses of the 12%, you got more alcohol than you did in one 18 or 20. So that's all you have to do is drink a little bit more. And honestly, if you're one of those people that, oh, well, this is 14.5%, that makes it better than 14%. This isn't the hobby for you. It's the truth. 0.5%, you can't tell the difference. I mean, even I can't tell the difference. It's just not worth the trouble. Now, if that 0.5% makes it sweeter or goes to your yeast tolerance, there's a reason for it, and that makes sense. But to just say, I have 2 meads here, one is 14.5, one's 14, the 14.5 must be better, you're thinking a little wrong. That's just not that important at the end of the day. Flavor is the most important thing. And 9 times out of 10, the slightly lower alcohol is going to taste a little bit better. But if you can even tell the difference, I'd be impressed. Because I can't.
Number 5!
Wow. Being impatient. I struggled with this so hard. I still do.
It's true.
Impatience is the number one enemy to brewing. Because this is not a one-day job or hobby. This is not a 1 week. This is not a 2 weeks. Some things are good soon, like our sweet red wine and the wine that we just made in the first time wine. That's great in 2 weeks. Right?
Some beer.
Some beers, well, actually most beer you can do in about 2 weeks. But then once you start getting into cider, if you don't add sugar to it, it depends on your taste. Some people don't like young ciders. We don't. We like them aged a bit. So to us, ciders need longer, just a few months probably. Then you start getting into aged wines, aged ciders, and then mead. Mead takes the longest to be good. Now, you can do some melomels and capsicumels and things like that that are really, really good in a short period of time. I actually find capsicumel is far superior when it's brand new, not brand new, but like 3 to 4 weeks old, than when it's 4 to 6 months old.
Our cranberry seemed to be...
The cranberry mead was wonderful immediately after brewing. Certain fruits work really well. Certain juices work really well. I get asked this one all the time on the last wine video that we did, the one that was like in the plastic bottle and everything. Oh, could I do this with apple juice? Well, yes, of course you can, but it won't be as good as soon. Yeah. Can I do this with white grape juice? Yes, but we tried that and it wasn't as good as soon. It took months to age. Yeah. People have asked, could I swap out the sugar for honey? Of course you can. Now you're making a piment or a type of mead, and that, because it's now mead, will take longer to age out and be good. So the question isn't, can I do this thing? It's, will it come out the same if I do this thing? And in most cases, no. And that's why we put out specific videos, specific ways. That one in particular, we know that grape juice and most grape juices we've tried are really good 2 to 3 weeks in. Boom, done.
Because if you think about it, each different element that you add to a beverage is going to have its own chemical signature. And that's chemical signature interacting with another chemical signature is going to be different if you change any of those elements out.
Yep. So that's the whole being impatient thing. Just give things time. Time heals all brews. That needs to be a t-shirt. I have said it many times. It really is the one thing that will fix almost anything, except our sweet red wine. It makes it less good. Some brews just like young. Yeah, it's that simple.
Number 4.
Trying to make too much alcohol in one batch. I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I get people to do this all the time on whatever video we just made. Something.
I want to make a 34% alcohol.
Yeah. How can I make more alcohol in this? And the first thing I want to ask them is, why? If it's good like this, what makes you think it's going to be better just by adding more alcohol to it? And if you really want more alcohol, go buy some whiskey. Go buy some vodka. Honestly, that's the easiest way to get more alcohol. And I mean, just drink the whiskey or vodka. You could pour it into the mead too, but what's the point? If you want to make your own stuff, you're making it for enjoyment of the process and for enjoyment of the beverage itself. I actually enjoy the process more than the drink. I just do. I like whiskey. I drink whiskey most often if I'm going to drink an alcoholic beverage. Beer too, though. We drink wines and meads with dinner. But so many people want to ramp it up. And especially it's like their first brew, like taking our sweet red wine as an example, or even the mead that just came out today. By the way, today is Friday, the 26th. Anyway, we put out a video today where we used 3 pounds of honey. Well, I literally get people to say, oh, I wanted more alcohol, so I put 5 pounds in. Okay, well, when you do that, you just changed everything about that recipe. The yeast can't handle it. It won't handle it, and it's going to overload and stop and stall, and you just wasted all that time and money. It just doesn't make any sense. Keep it simple. That makes the most sense. 12 to 15% is that sweet spot. Most yeast can get there, no problem. Sure, can you use a champagne yeast and get there? Yeah. I've done it with champagne yeast and never really liked the taste of that mead. If you like it, please, by all means, do. just know that you could run into some troubles where it stalls and you're kind of stuck. There's not a lot you can do at that point.
Are you ready? Number 3.
Adding too much stuff. Now, I mean that on many levels. Too much stuff could mean adding sorbates and sulfites and adding all the chemicals and the energizers and the nutrient things and soaking in this and every 3 days agitating with that. I just don't have that kind of time. And I work from home. And I don't want to have to mess with my brews that much. I want to set it, forget it, maybe give it a swirl every couple of days, and then in a month rack it and drink it. That's it. If it's more work than that, I'll go buy the stuff. I hate to be that way, but it's kind of true. If I really have to babysit something like that, I'd rather not do it. It takes the enjoyment away. As we said earlier, it's a choice to do it simply. Now, there are a lot of people out there that will argue and say that all the extra stuff is necessary, and they'll even use my own argument of the hydrometer against me. And they'll say, well, if 5,000 years ago people had this stuff, wouldn't they use it? And I think on a commercial level, yes, they would. In the home use, I don't think they would. That's my personal opinion, because it would have been harder to get, first off, because the average person didn't have access to a lot of that stuff or anything even remotely close to it for their time period. So the average person would have made do with what they had. And in all honesty, if you make anything but the most basic mead, meaning just yeast, honey, water, and, like a couple of raisins, if you make anything more complex than that, you are putting nutrients and things that the yeast need into your brew. That's why, if you notice, we make a lot of juice-based, fruit-based. We put a lot of stuff in there to give the yeast more to work with. It also helps to, if you got a little bit of an off flavor and it's young, it could help mask that just ever so slightly so that you don't have to age it quite as much. In truth, 5,000 years ago, they almost never took honey, water, and made mead with that. They put other stuff in it because they had it and because they knew it would make it taste more interesting.
Part of the reason why we started this whole city studying enterprise is because we wanted to take control of what we were eating and drinking. And by that, we meant we wanted to remove the additives that were unnecessary to have a more pure product that we can enjoy.
Yeah. All the additives, they serve their purpose, and I'm not going to say that you're wrong for using them. I'm going to say it's unnecessary to use them. That's the best I can say, because it's not right or wrong. It's personal choice.
Yeah.
However, if you really want to get into that sort of brewing, we may not be the right place for it, because we never actually do it. People want me to go back and redo the nutrients versus raisins test. I have no reason to. We don't ever want to use the nutrients, even if it produced a better product. I still wouldn't do it. How's that? I still wouldn't do it.
And in all honesty, there's been times where we'd like, oh, well, this is going a little slower, and we know if we chopped a bunch of nutrient in there, it would zoom. Would that make it a better beverage in the long end?
Again, it comes down to, this is our choice to do it this way. We don't want to do it that way, even if it does produce a better product faster or quicker. It doesn't work with the ethos that we designed this for. Yeah. So that's why, okay? And I'm not going to harp on it too much. We have other videos where we talk about that.
Dos.
Number 2. This is where we get a little tongue-in-cheek. Listening to YouTubers who don't show a finished product. Okay. I'm not picking on other channels, but there are a lot of people out there showing how to make this. But if you check their channel, they never, ever show a finished product, which makes what they made a little suspect. It could have been the most amazing thing ever, and they just never got around to making a second video.
And
but if they never show finished product.
This isn't just a criticism of brew channels. This is a criticism of YouTube channels.
Yep. We've been looking into another form of gardening recently, and Derek is finding a lot of people are, hey, I'm going to do this thing, and that's it. You never see what was the result. They try it, but you never see a result.
And as a person who's trying to learn and educate myself, it's really frustrating to me to not see the finished product. Yep. And so that's why, even if we do staged videos for you, we're always going to show the final product. Whether it be a tasting or a bottling or some other aspect, we're going to show you, here it is, done.
Another aspect to this is videos making fantastic claims. Like, there is a video. Please don't go looking for it. I think it's been removed. Hopefully it's been removed. Where the guy says, easy way to make 30-something% alcohol in 3 hours. I'm like, are you serious? So I watched it. He never took a reading once of anything. And just based on the amount of fermentables that he put in, he didn't get 15%, let alone 35 or 32 or whatever he claims. That's just not possible. So making crazy claims is called clickbait, and it's actually how you get your video removed from YouTube. And it just doesn't help people who are trying to learn, because we get people coming to us saying, oh, I saw a video where he made 34% alcohol. How do I do that? You don't.
You don't.
You can't. It's just not possible without some form of distillation, which we're never going to do on our show until it becomes legal in Florida.
Or we move to New Zealand.
Yeah, or we move to a place where it's legal, which is not very likely to happen, but... You know, with enough money from you guys, maybe.
Yeah, send us a bunch of money. Yeah. We'll move to New Zealand.
If you guys want to invest, we'll gladly move to New Zealand. I would love. I want a Hobbit house.
Yes.
Seriously, I want a Hobbit house. Okay.
Numero uno.
Using kaffir lime leaves in any brew. Don't ever do it. If you don't know what that means, you have not watched enough of our videos. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.